Hello and welcome to another episode of Owlbear Soup.
Yeah. That's all I got. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Uh, it's uh, it's October. I love October. Um, I don't think we have anything particularly spooky to talk about today, but I do
No.
think there's definitely going to be some spooky that we have to touch base on soon. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm joined today by my friend Charlie, as well as co-host Richard, and I
Was
am
it
Justin.
Char? I was like, what?
Charlie.
Oh, great. Charlie. How's it going, Charlie?
He's feeling a little quiet today, so he
Oh,
probably won't join into discussion. Um, oh man, uh, I don't have a lot gaming this week to really talk about, except that I've been playing Star Wars Squadrons, and that has been
oh yeah.
wonderful. Yes, yes.
I am putting it on slight hold, but I'll be jumping into that soon because I just miss playing TIE Fighter, like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Game's
Yeah,
fun.
it's real good. It's real fun. I'm hoping to finish up the campaign the next couple of days, and then I'm going to be it'll be all like PvP. So hopefully we can gather a crew, and we'll be able to run some sweet missions.
Wow. Yep. That's fun. I'm liking video games with other players. I think that's fun. That I know, not randoms. um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I've definitely during this quarantine the fact that I've had video games and people to play with has really been saving grace.
yeah, it's been a lot of my social time, which is so
Right.
good.
It's been almost all my only my social time.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
So
It's all games.
yeah. All right. Well,
I've
yeah.
got
How
a
about you?
couple. I've got this was a big week. I got a couple
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Um,
You have a couple of
let's see.
things.
Yeah, Monday was the launch of some games I've been building for the Mission. Oh, shoot, there we go. Mission Catastrophe board game, which is coming out on Kickstarter, I think next month at some point. And so we built a series of Twine games that you run through, and it's like you're playing the game a little bit. So it's you play like one of the characters, and you're running around this ship trying to get through it and escape in one of them, or gather all the supplies you need to escape in another one. And if you do it efficiently enough, then there's a puzzle at the end to solve. And just running through it once gets you like back to basically the highest level of this campaign once it comes out, or at least an entry. And then every puzzle you beat will be an additional entry. You get like the game and all the minis hand painted and sent to you, and ridiculous super stuff. And it's just a ton of fun.
All
Um,
right. That's Cardboard Academy Mission Catastrophe.
Yeah, Cardboard Alchemy. Yep. And Mission Catastrophe is
Alchemy.
this game where it's a co-opetitive game. I don't really like that term, but here's the deal: is like you are all the crew members of the ship, and you're trying to get out. You have to get these supplies and get onto an escape pod. The ship is exploding around you, and there's a lot of times when nobody escapes. But the big thing is you are trying to get out as fast as you can, and you don't want someone to steal your escape pod along the way. So there comes this moment when you stop cooperating a little bit and you start like looking out for yourself. It's pretty
Oh,
fun.
nice. All right. And then I think you also have another thing that got tossed out there recently too, right?
Gosh, yeah. On Tuesday, Mike Selinker launched the Kickstarter for Game Theory in the Age of Chaos, which is a series of books that we have been writing over the last 4 years about politics and game theory. And it is now the final like omnibus edition, and this will be the end of our game theory cycle here. But it's very cool. You can back it either on Kickstarter, or there are plenty of ways at shark.vote where you can learn like how to get the book for free by donating to democratic campaigns and all sorts of other things. It's pretty cool.
All right, and I
So
tossed all those links in the chat, so they will also be
so
in hopefully be in the links below in the YouTube videos, so long as I remember.
yeah,
Let me make a quick
we're
note
gonna have
of
a lot of
that.
links.
I know. And for folks watching us on YouTube, thanks for checking us out. We stream every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Feel free to come check
Great.
us out and join us in the chat. All right. Yeah. Do you want to introduce the topic today while I make some quick
Ooh,
notes on today's show?
of course. So today we are going to be looking at the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is a corner of the internet that I love. It is a place where anyone can publish their own works about D&D and get paid for them, which is awesome. And if you use the DM's Guild, then you can also use basically all the lore of Forgotten Realms or Eberron or Ravenloft. I think those are the ones open at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But also people are writing about like Theros and Ravnica. There's a ton of very, very cool worlds in there. And it's great because you can get in depth with the lore. You can use all of the stuff that they've written for D&D at this point. So it's fantastic. If you publish on your own, you can't use all those things. So this is like a cool special nest for a lot of really good ideas and a lot of really, really great publications. And so we're going to look at a few of them today.
Yeah. Yeah, we picked out a few. To say more, Rich picked out a few. He's a little more he's a little more involved in the DM's Guild than I am. But we picked out a few that we thought would be interesting and timely and all that jazz. And
Yeah.
so we're gonna kick it off with the player's primer for Icewind Dale.
Yes. Oh, I was excited. This book came out back in July, and it's got a pretty solid team of writers on it. Stephen Pansakai and Sadie Lowry, um, along with like a huge team that is always involved in a ton of projects. I love it. And in this book, so that's earlier than Rime of the Frost Maiden. And so they
Mhm.
kind of, this was like, let's learn about the area. Let's come up with some background, some ways to like get your characters set up in Icewind Dale. And now that the book has come out, there's some parts of it that are super important, and there's some parts that didn't end up in the actual book. So there's a lot. This goes so deep into Icewind Dale, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, and so without spoiling too much, because we're not going to go through these books like we do some of the other things that we go through, because these are products on the DM's Guild, and we want you to go and buy them and check them out. Um, and we're of course not going to talk about books that we don't enjoy. So this is a very enjoyable book. Inside, you have your player's primer. Talks a little about the region of Icewind Dale. Talks about the 10 towns, the tundra, the cold run, the various settlements in that area. That kind of kicks it off. So you're already ready to dive into your adventure right in the front section of the book. They also highlight the factions of Icewind Dale, and I think they do a really good job at this. In fact, they highlight a couple that don't really get talked about too much in the official book. So that's kind of nice to see. And in the character chronicle, so this is so you're building a character Icewind Dale. Here's some interesting things that you can kind of do to your character to make it fit within the region a little bit better. And then of course there's some very specific backgrounds for the Icewind Dale, minor
Right.
and and then adapting various other backgrounds with some other options.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite parts of this chronicle in particular that it would be a really fun thing to adapt to your own home game is like there's a section called social status, which is based on your background or a random roll, either one. You might have allies and rivals somewhere in Icewind Dale, potentially in 10 Towns itself, maybe out in the tundra. Maybe there are people that you're going to end up visiting, or back in Cold Run, which is the series of towns that is just southwest of the 10 Towns region. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's a really fun way to just be like, to just know, not only with the secrets that are already inherent in Rime of the Frost Maiden, but like, oh, I've got someone I don't actually want to meet out here in the tundra. Here we go. And you're just kind of like, you're thinking about that the whole time. I think that's very fun.
Yeah, there's really a lot going on with this book, and
Mm-hmm.
and I like the forward. I read the forward of this book just because there was something interesting there, and I feel the same. Like Icewind Dale kind of was what introduced me to the greater world of D&D beyond like. The first D&D campaign I played in was set into Warhammer world because the guy I played with was a big Warhammer nerd.
Sure.
But it was such a non-developed version of the Warhammer world. So this is my first introduction to a more developed, well-rounded system and setting. And it's just kind of nice to see that other people were getting so much pleasure out of the setting, and kicking it off with the Crystal Shard, which is where I started my journey through the Forgotten Realms as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I do like that. I like that because they also had to go through and look at all the backgrounds and do kind of the same thing. Like, in order to set them into the world, like, let's take our sailor and see how that works in the 10 Towns region. What does a sage mean in this area? And I think that's cool because it takes it from this just broad, like, I don't know, I'm a sage. I was in a bookstore, I don't know, to very specific, like, you might be an Aurora cartographer and this is your deal, is being in the setting. Like, it just makes the world really deep. And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know really how much more to go into without revealing too much. I do want to go ahead and jump into the Character Chronicle because I think this is pretty fascinating. Just real briefly, so we get a taste, right? You can pick your kind of home region. And when we were talking about the social status, this is the social status that you were talking about, right? Where in certain areas you have, so if you look across here, based on your background, you have like an ally in Cold Run, or an ally and a rival in 10 Towns, or a rival in the Tundra.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks things out a little bit more. What was it that I really enjoyed reading about? Yeah, I think I had, oh, here we go. Fateful moments. Like, I like this chart right here. You witnessed a white dragon flying overhead and grabbed one of its scales as it dropped out of the sky. The next morning, you discovered you could speak Draconic, right? So just like little important points in your life that have led towards that life of adventure. I think this is pretty fantastic.
I love these. These are really, really cool. And they just make your character a little bit more interesting. Not like, wild talent psionic style, but these are just fun, extra cool things that I like a lot. So. Yeah. Oh, there's certain roles I might cheat on a few of these roles. There's some of these I want.
Right? Exactly. Like number 9, proficiency with animal handling.
Exactly. No, you know me. I want an elk that loyally follows me around wherever I go. That's amazing.
What would you name your elk that follows you around?
Oh my gosh. I'm already like, I just want it to be like Elky. I'd have to come up with a good name generator for that one. But right now it's just Elky. I like that. Elky the elk.
Bartholomew.
Oh, very good.
Oh man. All right. Well, should we jump on to the next one?
Let's do it, right? We got more Icewind Dale to chat about.
Yeah, so Laurel Silverhand's Notebook. This is Surviving Icewind Dale. This is another one kind of highlighting some of the things in Icewind Dale. This is more of a codex style book, I think. I think that's the appropriate word, right? So this is less like you're building your character, and this is more a tool to be used by like the DM. So inside, let's go and take a quick look at the table of contents. You're going to have your area of creatures, magic items, spells, and NPCs. Yeah. I like it. There's definitely some cute things in here, like the owling.
Oh yeah.
I think I looked through the spells kind of briefly, and I do think that they redid some old 2nd edition spells and brought them into the 5th edition as well. So that was pretty great. Yeah, here, let's take a quick look at the owling, because it was pretty great if I remember.
The owling is very good.
There we go. There's the owling. It is terribly cute, and it delivers messages, I think.
Right. Yeah. And there's also like not only that, which I love, but they've also created this list of NPCs, and one of them is is it Skritz? No, it's Snowdrop, I think, is one of these. Oh, there, shoot. It's in here somewhere. One of them is one of these owlings and will come. Oh, Sunny Broken Claw. There it is.
That's right. Here, as soon as this loads. Well, it's never going to load. We're never going to get to see it. Sorry, everybody.
It's just a very cool book. I love that they have Because the world of Rime of the Frost Maiden is already pretty dense, but there's plenty of room to add in these NPCs that you can have that just follow along the journey with you, and you don't have to worry about them, dying off because of some plot events. These are just going to be your specific friends, which I think is fun.
Yeah. It's Sunny Broken Claw is pretty great as well. There's Sunny. Sunny's current goals is Sunny has a plan to free Owlings of Brine Shader or Shander. She knows that
Mhm.
Owlings under training are kept within a certain facility. Sunny plans to infiltrate that facility and rescue them. Since untrained Owlings will still have honed instincts and stand far better chance of surviving the frozen north. Yeah, no, I love this section that a lot more people have been doing, and they've been showing a lot more in D&D books, which is the motivations and goals. I really like knowing more about what these characters want, even if it isn't directly tied to the story. But knowing a little bit more about them really helps with just getting a good understanding of the character, of how they'll interact with your player characters, and that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
One other thing I will point out about this book that I like is I do like that they kind of broke the mold a little bit with their design ideas. And if you look, the way they have these laid out is all of the pages are 2-page folds. So
Hmm.
your creatures, your NPCs are going to be going across 2 pages, which is pretty nice. It's not great for my PDF viewer, but I think it shows up better in other PDF viewers.
Yeah, I do like it. The like you said, the spells are really cool. I like having a spell list like this, and also one in Rime of the Frost Maiden, because it's cool to get to an area and have unique spells that your wizards can learn. Things
Hmm.
like that, like stuff that you can pick up along the way, or something that can be cast on you and then you learn. Like I love that idea. Like the Goliath stronghold has this specific set of spells that they haven't allowed to pass on, but once you meet them and are friends with them, they can teach you some of these things. So those are really fun options.
Yeah.
I also love the. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, no. I on the spell thing. It's like I recently read something where on Reddit where people were talking about their players making spells, and one of the things that they've started to do is if a player makes a spell, the spell becomes that player's name, whatever they named a spell, and then
Heck yeah.
that spell survives into the next campaign, so you can find it out there. So
Ooh,
my elk created a spell, and so it's Bartholomew's Dust to Bark, right? And
of course.
yeah, in the next campaign you can find Dust to Bark, Bartholomew's Dust to Bark in a spell book somewhere, right? And I just thought that was kind of interesting. In a lot of these, I'm going to assume they did some play testing, did some balancing. Like I would be okay if somebody found something like in this book and said, "All right, well, I'm going to take Gust of Snow and I'm going to learn that, or I'm going to develop that for this campaign." And so now
Hmm.
it's JoJo's Gust of Snow. So anyway,
Right. Which I like a lot. We talk about reskinning, and I often let players do that, just change the feel of their spell a little bit, but new ones is always great. There's also quite a few magic items, which I am always a fan of because I always want more things to find out there. And there's some pretty cool ones in here that really kind of these are things I would be excited to find as a player or to hand out as a DM. So there's good stuff.
yeah, and they're all kind of geared towards Icewind Dale, so that's also very very good for this product is in
Mhm.
tying it in with the most recent campaign that came out. I believe there's one I can't remember, but there's one that helped keep you warm during a blizzard, right? A very basic
Right.
thing like that.
Yep.
It's super useful. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
oh man,
There's one that you would like, the Frost Bridge, which is it's it's some never melting snow that you have in a vial that you can pour out onto water, and it will start freezing so that you can walk across it. It's
oh,
exactly what you would want.
that's perfect. I love it. I love yeah.
Smart
Based
idea.
off our fighter conversations, right? I would
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Man, so good. All right.
Yep.
Well,
So I
yeah. Go for
Yeah,
it.
we took, I talked a little bit. There were a bunch of things on Icewind Dale on the DMs Guild, and you should definitely check them out. These two, I think, I picked because they can give players and DMs some extra chunks to add into the game. There are plenty of adventures to find out there as well. There's we talked last time. There's a prologue adventure you can play for high level that leads into this, or some alternatives to the very start, and additional adventures to sprinkle throughout. But I love player options and I love DM options, so these are the two I
Yeah.
wanted to chat about.
Yeah, no, these are great. I think it's time to step out of Icewind Dale a little bit.
All right.
And let's talk about Birds of Paradise. So
Yes.
I believe, I forget where this book came up in conversation, if this was while we were playing video games or if this was during one of our streams, but this book is all, Aarakocra and Kenku variants, and they're pretty fantastic.
It's such a smart idea. I love this because every single kids love playing these. So I've had almost every session as a Kenku or or an Aarakocra, unless it's a cat group. It's one of the two. But everyone wants their plumage to look different. They don't just want to be crows. They want to throw off their cloak and they're covered in like these bright feathers, things like that. Sometimes Aarakocra want other options as well, because that ancestry, because it's got that specific 50 feet of flying speed that's wild, so they don't have any other abilities. They want something. And so this book creates a ton of other options that you can take. Basically, they say just scrap the Aarakocra and Kenku that you start with, give yourself a +2 to your dexterity score, and then from there, pick one of these cool options to flesh out the rest of your character. It's even hard to tell as you're looking through which ones are Aarakocra and which ones are Kenku. Like, it says it really specifically, what type they are somewhere, but not always. So it's cool that I think how these kind of flow together.
Yeah, and let's give a little preview of like the first one in here, the Baldarian. So the Baldarian owl, who knows if it's a Kenku or a Aarakocra. I'm sure it says somewhere in there, but it starts out the same, +2 dexterity, and then you get a +1 to your wisdom. You get Touch of Saloon, so that's a special ability specific for your Baldarian owl. You're a child of the night, so you have a disadvantage on attack rolls. Excuse me, that rely on sight. Wow, what's going on here? Yeah, all right, there we go. I was like, they said that weird. Child of night. That's essentially disadvantage on perception checks when you're in bright sun because of your superior dark vision.
Right.
And then you have a bulky flame, so your speed is reduced a little when you fly.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some interesting language on the DMs Guild. This one seems very specific to try to say, like, it's not only if you are in bright sunlight, but if your target is as well. So you can't just like hide out in a tree and like launch arrows or something.
Yeah.
But
I think that's better wording once I reread it.
Yeah. Right. This isn't dramatically different than the Aarakocra. Your flight speed is dropped. You get some abilities out here. We have our dark vision, sunlight sensitivity thing thrown in, and then a cool thing, which I love. But they've also focused on adding this cool artwork at the bottom, which I love. This is a big part of their advertising, is they're just posting each one of these on Twitter. It's really cool. And then the entire next page is more about these creatures, including an iconic NPC with this build, in this case, Kwai, Protector of the Wood of Sharp Teeth. And I love this. This is really great because now not only does a player have an option, but now a DM has an option. This is something I can put into a campaign as well.
Yeah. I do want to point out one more, just very briefly. The Delamibarian Flamingo is amazing.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say about that one.
It's so good.
So good. One thing as I was reading through, as I was reading through this book, one thing I kind of thought is that some of these may not be the most balanced across all campaigns. So be very careful, make sure it works with your campaign, that type of stuff. But what I did kind of pick up was that there is definitely a very interesting all Kenku Aarakocra campaign in this book.
Oh yeah, this would be so fun.
Hey, listen, because you pick a race from this book.
Just everyone does it. there's we've got these two options that we looked at the start. One of the other ones I like is like the Nolanther Great Crested Grebe. Grebe, who knows? But this is one where you are a seafarer. Like they thought about what if you're one of these birds that also deals with the water a whole lot. So this one is amphibious. Their flight speed is reduced all the way down to 20, but they gain a swimming speed on top of that. They don't have talons, but they are used to defending themselves on the water, so they get these cool seafarer abilities as well. Like it's well thought out. Like I love this book.
Absolutely.
And then
I do.
There's even more.
Do,
there's more.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
they're also good. I love that the Nowlanther crested greb has a triple hook hand.
Oh yeah. There's also at the very end of all of these, there is the adventurer Magdalena Grovebright, who this book is named after, who is the one who went out and explored and met all of these creatures, which is very cool to have that explorer NPC in. And then a few spells as well that are just a little bit more bird themed, just in case after reading this book you need protection from avians.
Yeah,
that spell exists.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, no, I really dig this one. Oh yeah, here up at the beginning you can see the adventurer who chronicles this book. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I would totally be down to play a Birds of Paradise game. I think it would be fun if everybody was a different bird of paradise in this campaign.
Yeah, that would be great.
I still want to play.
And then everyone. Yeah, I don't know how well they'd all fit in Icewind Dale. But you deal with the fact that one Aarakocra in your group is flight, and then that trivializes some things. Just give everybody flight and play a different kind of D&D.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I chat out one of the spells in here?
Oh yeah.
Healing Wind. I love this one. This is one where you like wave your wing and a breeze of healing goes forward in a line, a 10-foot line, and heals everyone in that line. Only a d6 plus your spellcasting ability. It is an action. I don't find that terribly unbalanced for a new healing spell, and I kind of like the idea. It fits with some video gamey, healing properties that I like a lot. So
yeah, and really with a 10-foot line, you can only heal 2 people. So that's right. I think that's good, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's fun. All right, I broke in. You were about to say something.
Oh no, I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about like. Yeah, no, I like I almost think it would be more fun if at higher levels, instead of like adding extra healing, it added extra length to the line.
Yeah.
So like at second level, you gain an extra 5 feet or whatever.
Everybody line up. Let's go.
All right. I'm going to cast this as a 10th level spell.
Yeah, it's just this long line, and everyone's just getting like a d6 plus 3 or something. But
exactly.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's good.
Just a cool different way to have like a little bit of flavor for your avian healer. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I tend to be a little cautious about spells from third-party books like this, but I like it whenever like this healing wind. This one just feels very, very interesting and very fun, and it's not overpowered, and it is usable while doing something different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I really enjoy like healing wind. So they did a great job on it, and I don't say that often about custom spells. So
sure. Yeah. This is a fantastic book. I mean, even if I wasn't the biggest, I love playing birds. But this is such a good book. There's so many cool options in here. You're gonna find something that you want to play, unless you hate birds.
Yeah. Well, I hate birds. So
I mean,
I used to. So when I was when I lived in Florida, I used to buy bird watching books, and I would go out to a slough near my house. So a slough is just like a swampy area. And this one was a protected area for those kinds of animals. And I'd go out there with my binoculars and go bird watching. So I do enjoy birds. I'm not going to let that,
you
rumor stick around.
No, good. So you saw some trackless seed eaters for sure.
Yeah.
some Thane Watsons.
Clearly.
Definitely.
Definitely. Oh man. So now I think we're going to get to my favorite book of the batch that we have to kind of go over today, and that's going to be Ancestral Weapons. This book
Yep.
I read this book this morning, and it is going to change the way I do magical items in my home game, because we're at this point where in my home game we're starting up on back up on Wednesday hopefully, and
Mhm.
we've reached level 9, and the PCs are getting more powerful, so are the threats, and we're starting that road towards the end of the campaign, right? We're gonna go either to level 15 or level 20. We haven't quite figured that out yet. The story can go either way. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, they're getting to that point where they need to be like real heroes and have like really cool items, and just have all this ability to overcome increasingly crazy odds because I'm throwing more and more stuff at them. So, like the monk in our party, played by Aubrey, she signed a contract and she's starting to get some bonuses to her character from that. So it's now I'm like, okay, well, she's a monk, so she doesn't really use weapons. So that seemed like the best way to kind of introduce an ancestral weapon type of thing for her. Um,
Uh-huh.
and and so she's already gotten a couple of things in here. Now I'm like, oh, okay, well now I have a guide to show off what power she has.
Mhm.
The rogue, I kind of gave a way overpowered weapon, and then she died. So then I brought her back and I changed her weapon so it's less overpowered. But now she's leveled again, so now I'm going to add some more power to it. But it was ridiculously overpowered before, so we're all okay now. And the ranger picked up something, and the warlock picked up something. But the warlock, I might do something a little different. I might do some of this to their weapon, but I might do some of this to them too from their patron. And then we have a wizard cleric too, who needs some love. So, anyway,
Needs some
with all, we need some love. With all that said, this book is all about creating very special weapons. The idea is that your character starts with a weapon as part of character creation. In their idea, only one person in the party would have an ancestral weapon, but that doesn't seem fun. So everybody would get an ancestral weapon, and so as you level up, you get these things called spirit points, and these spirit points then allow you to add different things to your weapon. And there's also rules in here for if you reach a certain point and you're like, ooh, well, that doesn't really work with where things are going, you can reassign your spiritual points.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my elevator pitch on this book. It's really great. I'm very excited about it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
I
brought to
mean,
us by
not only
Matt
you,
Vaughn.
right? And I believe this is one of the adamantine bestsellers on the DMs Guild. This is one of the most purchased products. It's at least a year old. It's still in their like top 10, I think, books that have been most popular books. There we go.
Mhm.
So people love the idea. I totally agree with you. Like having the one character with an ancestral weapon is it's a little difficult. Like it makes sense in a lot of senses because it is this character. They have rules in here like, well, it must be handed down from your ancestor specifically, or they didn't you fit and you put it up. It has this lineage aspect to it. But I think those are almost like the rule set is so cool that you can kind of just skip out on that flavor, give everybody these, and then suddenly your magic item economy is way more interesting in your game because you
Mhm.
don't have to hand out all the things to build them up. You can keep building up this one thing, and or allow the players to build it up they want to.
Exactly.
If you want to hand that over to them instead. It's a very, very cool option. It's all point buy based. So you do a thing. After doing a thing, you will get a certain number of these spirit points, and then you can start purchasing them. There's a huge table, and it's like here's the tier 1 table. So if you're levels 1 to 4, you can buy any of these. Some of these, I believe, cost you more spirit points than others, and yeah, one of you, the DM or the player, has to decide how those are going to get filled out during the game, and it's great. It's just great.
Yeah. I pulled up like the example of building a weapon page just so we can kind of get an idea of some of the upgrades and how it all works. So in the ancestral weapon setup says determine who has the ancestral weapons. a weapon. So it's not they say it's not appropriate for every character. I think it is. Part of the reason I think it is I hate the idea of the one. Right, that's the biggest fantasy trope that drives me away from a lot of fantasy. Is the idea that there's one person who's special, who's above the rest, who can solve the problem. Anyway, so then you decide on
Yeah,
the
and
ancestral weapon
your
type.
weapon is
Oh, good.
going to feel better. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no matter who has this, your weapon is going to feel better than any other magic item anyone gets. So yeah,
yeah.
even if you think you're going to be able to balance this, you're going to be stuck with this character's special thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So then you decide on the ancestral weapon type. So, you pick whatever type of weapon it is. And then you determine starting points. So the DM determines anywhere from 0 to level +2. And then you buy your starting upgrades, and spear points are gained as you kind of level up through different various ways. The DM assigns it. It's not necessarily you level up and get one, but whatever. And then you buy more upgrades. So an example upgrade that they have here is rampaging. So the rampaging costs 3 spirit points. It's melee weapon only, and you have advantage on attacks with this weapon if you began your turn over 20 feet away from the target. So they're all things like that. And then there's some restrictions, like you can't have 2 of them that have the same name. So later on, there's one that's like, I can't remember. It's like bash, and then you knock them prone, and then bash, you trip them, and then bash, you do something else, right? And there's 3 different powers, but you can only take one of those bashes. You can't take all 3 of them.
Right.
Yeah. So and that's basically it. It's like as you level, you can level up these weapons, and it becomes pretty awesome.
Right. So there's also stuff the overlap. If you have the amplify, I believe, or enhanced weapon, there it is. Just make it a +1 weapon. If you want to get to the +2 weapon, and you've already purchased the +1, you get a refund to power up. Otherwise, if you don't, you can buy that for full price. So there's a lot of little things in there to make sure that this stays balanced. And a lot of the abilities are going to be very familiar if you're used to like a third ed system. That's where a lot of these came from. You'll see those. But there's also things on here that are pretty unique and very cool. So I think it's a fantastic list of possibilities. I would be excited as a player to start digging in and deciding what I want, but I would also be very happy if a DM was doing this and deciding like what's the perfect upgrades for my character, and they don't need to be the perfect ones, just the ones that are thematically, with the weapon or with my character, however we want to do it. Like it's just a great rule set.
Oh no. Aubrey has mentioned she has lost picture and sound.
Oh no.
I'm going to go ahead and look into that, and I'm going to go
Oh, I
ahead
see
and what's that?
Oh, I see us moving around still.
Okay, I still see us as well, but I'm going to dig into it just a little bit. While I dig into it, do you want to start talking about the next book?
I will. Okay, so I'm a big fan of this one, but our next one that we are going to check out is the Malady Codex. This is also an older book. There have been a couple in this series, but I'm a big fan of where it started. An introduction to fantastical diseases and epidemics. Perfect for, well, no, it's not. This book was written by a couple of medical students from Greece who are super excited about the Pacific, and so they wrote a lot of these diseases and treatments with their medical backgrounds in mind. I'm putting this up because there's a conversation that happened recently about exhaustion and diseases and how in D&D they are just kind of a thing that happens that are either trivial or they are so punishing that it's almost character ending. This book tries to split the difference by coming up with some diseases that are a little bit more interesting, with solutions that are a little bit more interesting. I am a big fan. I should also say at the start of this that there is a series of adventures called the Malady, the Malady Chronicles, and those are there's an adventure based on each one of these, and I actually wrote one of them. They asked me to write one based on the Druid's Curse, which is very much the Black Plague. Pretty dark.
So is that's a separate book?
That is a separate book. This is, yeah, just about the diseases themselves. And the way they go through this book is really kind of cool. I mean, they introduce what the disease is. They talk about its origins. Where did it come from? A lot of these are, magically created at some point. The causes, the symptoms, and these are taken in a lot of ways from the real world. How would you diagnose this thing? How would you cure it? Some of these that's easier than others. And then plot hooks themselves, like how could you work this into your campaign. So the druid's curse, I remember in particular, was created by a series of like circle of spores style druids, very bad folks. And there is this rare herb called spark leaf that can cure this disease if it's brewed and given to people soon enough. And so a lot of the adventure that goes with this is, how do you find that spark leaf? How do you find it in time to come back and cure these people and this entire town that is dealing with the druid's curse? And the book's got a whole bunch of those. So the Ad Mage virus, stages of what's going to happen. It's wild. It's really intense.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna pull up one that has like, there's one that has a bunch of stages, right? So the Beholder spores, right? This one is one of those ones with quite a variation of stages that you can kind of go through. Has how you can diagnose it. Has the cure, all that stuff. And it's pretty fantastic.
Right.
There's definitely some things in here that I'm going to be pulling into future campaigns. And there's some NPCs in here. I don't know. It's good. It's a good book.
And I like that Beholder Spore is the one you pointed out. Like, there's this note in green, and the notes in green are how they relate to our world. So this is loosely based on fungal infections like Aspergillus, some other wild stuff. Just it's very smart. That's what I'm saying. It came from this very smart place, and can add quite a bit to a game where this is part of it. So, let's see, Icewind Dale. I'm not sure how many of these are going to fit into that, but if you're going back and playing Tomb of Annihilation, right, and you're running around in the swamp, there's spaces for these diseases to kind of show up in certain villages that you come into, and can make them a little bit more interesting.
I do have to say, I really enjoy the cover. It's a very creepy cover.
Yeah,
it's very good for October.
Well, then I'm glad we got to talk about it. There's a second book, the Codex 2, which is even more of these. There are the adventures, and I think there is even a fourth book that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But it's a good group, and they were really focused on bringing this to life.
Yeah, it's a solid book. Totally, if you want to do something. Some of these are very brutal. But diseases are brutal. So speaking of brutal, let's go ahead and hit our last book on this tour.
Yes.
Mythic Encounters. Oh, yes. By the way,
did you think 20th level would be boring?
I do have a nice mug.
You've got a nice shirt as well, by the way. That hasn't been mentioned yet.
I'm just saying, yeah. So here's the thing: is my colors are off. My filter colors are off, so I'm looking a little funky. Can I fix me? I don't know. I can't fix me live. That's fine. But the colors are much brighter than this. I'm a little. My gamma is down a little bit right now because I was playing with green screen stuff.
Gotcha.
Anyway. Mythic Encounters. Mythic Encounters is by Steve Fiddler, Brian Holmes, and E.R.F. Jordan. None of these names I'm familiar with. I'm not a big DM's Guild guy, but this book, it has a lot of quality in it. These are really smart guys. It's a nice big book at 132 pages. Oh, I didn't even look at the page count of some of the others. 19, 54, 32, 31, 25, 132.
132. Yeah, this is a lot of effort in here. Oh my gosh, it's a good price. And again, this is another one that I think is platinum level. Like, this is one of the books people love the most, and there are some sequels to this one as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This book is Mythic Encounters, right? It's what happens at 20th level when you go up against these crazy, extra powerful monsters. And a lot of them are very famous ones throughout the Forgotten Realms and other variations of D&D, as well as some of the ones that have come up in recent books, such as Acerak. Acerak is from Tomb of Annihilation.
Right.
Icing
Yeah,
Death. Icing
Ariel.
Death is from Icewind Dale, not specifically this book, but just in Icewind Dale in general. Jublex was the one that was interesting to me because Jublex is a god, and I think Jublex is the only god in here. Orcus is in here as well. Never mind, I take that back.
Right. There's
And
some
I guess
younger deities in here, I think.
yeah, and Zigamati, and you know who is in here. So, but yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into one of them and talk about it a little bit, and that way we can get a feeling of the book. I'm going to take us to you know who. So you know who
That is
is the
wow. Not
yeah.
how I thought that was said.
How did you always how do you pronounce it?
I just
You
this
know
is
who?
never a word I've had to say out loud. Yeah, but now
You
that
know who?
it's I kind of like that. That's wild. That's great.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's part of the joke is it's you know who, right? So
You know who?
it's as you say it fast, it's you know who, and
Hmm.
you know who is coming, right? And anyway, so you know who is the god of the not kobolds. Why can't I?
Knowles.
Gnolls, the Knolls.
Knowles.
I so I have a fond memory of fourth edition Knolls. Um, so they are in organized play. You could unlock races and stuff to play, and I unlocked Knoll. So I created a Knoll rogue who used his claws instead of not knives, and and he was a follower of you know who, and that was a
Very
ton of fun.
So did you agree with these ideals? There are only two things
Yeah,
in existence: prey and me.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so many spleens, so little time. Yeah, that was perfect. Um,
Okay, good.
yeah, yeah. My character thought they were a good guy, so I put their alignment as chaotic good, but they did things that was bad, and they
Uh-huh.
had to be told it was bad, and they didn't understand why. And they're like, "Well, it's dead. It's just food, so I eat it."
Right, right. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It was a Noel trying so hard to be so good, but
Hmm.
it just didn't work out all the time.
That's fantastic.
Oh man. Anyway, you know who. So in these, it's broken down so you get the lair. You know, the idea behind the lair is this is pretty much where you're going to be end up fighting. You know who, and there are some hazards. Different effects that take place in the lair. And this isn't horribly out of the ordinary. We do have layers and layer actions, that type of stuff that happen on turn 20 or on initiative count 20 anyway in some of these monsters. But this details for you know who. And then of course regional effects as you get closer to you know who's lair, then you start getting some of these regional effects. So usually like within a mile it starts showing up. And then actually in this one it's within 6 miles things start showing up. You start seeing more and more predatory beasts and they're unusually savage, that type of stuff. um, and then what's really cool is they have taken the time to create these amazing stat blocks that are just filled with information about these monsters and how to
Yes.
go up against them whenever you're dealing with you know who or whoever is in these adventures.
And I love this stat block because there are two parts that are important for this book in particular, right? You could you could have the stat block and fight this creature and it would be awesome, but every single one of these have a mythic ability. And in this one, it's Beasts Within. If you know who is reduced to 0 hit points, because that's the gimmick here, they don't die or fall unconscious. Instead, it becomes incredibly feral and unpredictable, immediately gaining 333 hit points, all the way back to full until this trait recharges, gets these additional benefits. And that's kind of the gimmick with this entire book is you're not going to fight these creatures once. There's going to be a transformation moment. They're going to come back even stronger, and you're going to have to fight them again, whether they're at full health or not. They'll have new abilities. They start gaining these mythic actions, which are like our legendary actions that go off on someone else's turn. But now also you could pick these mythic ones instead. And they're a little different. I don't know if they're scarier, but they are certainly different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's a holdover from fourth edition too. There was a lot of abilities that and mythic abilities that would trigger once you hit zero, and a lot of them would bring things back to full health, and they would have extra abilities for the end of that encounter. And
Yeah,
I like seeing that a lot. I think that's really fun. If my campaign gets up to level 20, I'm definitely going to be doing some things like that, because
yeah,
that final encounter needs to last the entire session. Otherwise, what was it, level
exactly.
4?
True, very true. I love that these also come with, on the page before, it talks about making this a mythic encounter and exactly when that trait triggers. Here's a box text, if you want to read about
Mhm.
what that transformation looks like. And there's some really cool ones in here that I like. There's one about Eco, who is a Solar who is watching, like guarding over a prison. And when they drop to zero, for whatever reason, you're fighting this creature. They're not quite a perfect angel, I believe. The creature that's hidden inside seeps in and takes over that body and starts to portray the same Solar as chaotic evil while the Solar is trying to like get themselves back. So that's awesome. That's suddenly a very cool fight that like the glowing greatsword turns into this warhammer just like forged from chaos. It's very, very fun.
Yeah, it's this is definitely a very fun book, especially if you can get to those high levels. And I mean, honestly, it might be fun to just go and make a group of level 20 characters and just have a one-off session where it's just like, all right, here we go. Let's see what would happen if you went up against you know who, and you have X amount of magic items, and it's balanced this way and that way, and
Ooh. I was just thinking each of you had a legendary or ancestral weapon.
oh yeah.
You have X number of spirit points.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Like, there you go. You make
Yeah.
your best level 20 character with your best spiritual weapon with 20 spirit points,
Mhm.
which means you actually get 25 spirit points because you get a bonus 5 when you hit 20. So,
Oh wow, very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, this is just it's a really fun book, and I even love the ideas of taking these. I like to steal things that are meant for high level play and turn them into low level play. So
Hmm.
I love giving your level 1, level 2, you go fight a creature, but there is a lair action that saves me the trouble of adding a trap or a ritual. Suddenly there's something else
Hmm.
going on, which is fun. Giving a kobold some all legendary action, just one makes them very scary. Um,
Yeah.
but adding mythic actions and this rebirth mechanic like reminds me of fourth ed and bloodied mechanics,
Yes. Yes.
which I thought were
I
a ton of
use
fun.
I do use bloodied mechanics in my home game in that sometimes monsters shift whenever they hit a certain hit point threshold,
Yeah,
and that's stuff I just do behind a screen. But yeah. Excuse me.
there's some
All right.
great options in here. I would recommend people check this out, read those options, and see how you can turn them into your own game.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at 5 till. So let's kind of start wrapping it up. Let's do a quick rundown of the books that we talked about today. We talked about Mythic Encounters. Here, actually, I should go ahead and turn that share back up. We covered Mythic Encounters. This was from Steve Fiddler, Brian Holmes, and ERF Jordan. This is about giant monsters for level 20. We talked about the Malady Codex by Jason Bakos and Themis Paraskrivas. This is about diseases and viruses and stuff like that. We also dove into what book is this? Ancestral Weapons. That's to make very special weapons for your party. And sorry, I didn't say who that was by. That I is by. Oh yeah, that's right. That's by Matt Vaughn
That's right, the
and
dungeon.
the Dungeon Rollers. Yep. And then we have well, let's do this one since it's here. L'Oreal Silverhands primer to Icewind Dale, or Survival Guide to Icewind Dale, and then there's the Icewind Dale primer as well.
Right.
The Icewind Dale primers by Steve Panacottatai and Saudi Lowry. L'Oreal Silverhands is still not loading for me, but of course, let's not forget Birds of Paradise. This is
Oh
by
no.
Florian Emmerich and Katrina Braznik. And this, here we go,
Oh
L'Oreal
god.
Silverhands Notebook, Surviving Icewind Dale. And this is by Kat Evans, Nicholas Tolteef, Sven Trottenbrot. And the editor was Christopher Walls. There we go.
It's such a good team. It's really, really cool. Like it's a very wide group. You know, I don't think any of these books are by the same person. I can
No.
easily do a whole segment on just like certain people and their products, but like
Yeah.
there's so many great creators, and if you're not DMs for player options or DM options, like it's such a valuable resource.
Mm-hmm.
You should check it out.
Yeah, and of course, there's always folks like MT Black and a couple of those others, Alpha Stream Teos, Abadia, that when you pick up their products, it's going to be good. And I'm very happy that
Yeah.
whenever we were going through these, none of those names came up. It's still quality products, and it's not just by those authors that we recognize all the time.
Right. The
All
the
right.
quality of the DM Guild is pretty high right now. It's a fantastic time to get in.
All right.
Woo.
So, let's see. Quick announcement. Tomorrow at 6:30, we're going to be continuing our deep dive into the fighter class for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. Make sure to join us right here at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for digging into the fighter. Also, I think next Saturday, unless something comes up, next Saturday around 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be doing the painting a Manicore kit with everyone live. I have not opened it. I have not looked at it. I'm going to open it and look at it live on stream, and we're just going to go through it together. And then let's see. And then of course next Sunday we'll be back here for Owlbear Soup.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. I DJ on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're doing horror movies all month. And then, of course, on Saturdays, I also stream doing DJ stuff starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for cartoons and dance music. Whew, I did all my shout outs.
Wow.
Your turn.
Let's see. Just I would keep following the Game Theory in the Age of Chaos Kickstarter, which is going, I believe, until the end of next. Let's see, the start of next week. I think it's Tuesday. We're just doing a 2-week campaign for that one. As well, the next game for Mission Catastrophe will be out next Monday, so we'll be able to shout it out one more time before it's live. We're going to do every 2 weeks leading up to the campaign launch in mid November. So very excited for those.
All right. Well, then in that case, we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're on Twitch, great to have you here. Feel free to like, subscribe, and all that stuff. If you're checking us out on YouTube, same things. Like, subscribe. I think the button's over there somewhere. All right. Man, I think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
a good one.